This is a video for how to clean your paper cartridges on your pool filter so that you can keep your pool sparkling clean. So you should do this about once a month in the summer is how often I do it, because we get a lot of debris in the pool from blowing winds, and we're using the pool quite a bit, getting body oils and things like that in there. In the winter, we only do it probably every 3 months because we're just not using it as much. There's not as much blowing wind here and getting stuff in the pool filter. But you got to wash out those, you got to wash out the small particles that get past your pump basket. That's your pump basket that you empty if you have a pool cleaner, and the particles that get past your skimmer basket, which every pool has. The smaller stuff gets past there and it gets into your pool filter, and dirt and sand and body oils and stuff also get in there. So this is a video about cleaning that out really well by yourself. So first of all, gather all your tools. It's best to just do it at the beginning so that you're not having to run around grabbing stuff as you're working. Just makes it a little bit more efficient. You might forget something, but it's better to grab it all at first. So let's go through the tools that you're going to need. And of course, I'll talk about them again when we're actually doing the job, but let's talk about them a little bit at first. So first of all, you're going to need some kind of a ratchet kit. That's what's in here, or wrenches, so that you can undo the nut that's holding on the band on the pool filter. Ideally, you would also have a rubber mallet, and what that's for is when you put the band back on, you're going to be able to get it tighter by using the rubber mallet. And then the screwdriver there is just in case you have any troubles, a flathead screwdriver, just in case you have any troubles getting the band off. You can use the screwdriver to gently pry it off, and we'll go through that when we do the actual job. So then once you get your filter apart, you're going to take the cartridges out, and you're going to need a wet vacuum so that you can suck out the debris that's going to be left behind in the pool filter water. When you take the filters out to go wash them, you'll get most of the debris in the filters, but there's stuff left in the bottom that you can suck out with the wet vac. You could do without doing that step and just leave that debris in the bottom, but if you want to do a real thorough job of getting all the debris out, you'll need a wet vacuum. Then this is instrumental to what I'm going to show you doing a really good job, is using a pressure washer. This job alone, if you're going to stay in your house and own a pool with cartridge filters for a long time, this job alone is probably worth buying a pressure washer. Even a cheap one, you can get them for like $150 is probably the low end, and that would be enough to clean your pool filters. But I bought this a little bit upgraded one for I think $250 to wash my pool filters, and I've found 10 other uses for it. It's one of my favorite tools that I've bought in the last year. And if you don't want to buy one of those, you can find a car wash, a do-it-yourself car wash that has the pressure sprayers, and you can take it to the car wash and spray them there. But you're going to spend $5-6 doing that every time, and the drive there and drive back. And so, like I said, over the course of a couple of years, you might as well just bought your own pressure washer and be able to use it for a lot of other stuff and have the convenience. And then the last thing you're going to need is some pool and spa lube and some kind of a rag that you can throw away. You're not going to want to wash that rag when you're done with it. You're going to want to just throw it away. And that is for lubing the gasket ring that goes around the pool filter and keeps it nice and tight. You want to lube that just about every time you clean your pool filter, just to keep it nice and soft so that you can go years without buying a new one. So the first thing we want to do is turn the power off to the pool. Of course, you can turn the power off by this red switch, but I would recommend that you turn the power completely off. Probably have another switch for that. The reason why is because if you don't get it put back together in time, and if you don't get the filter put back together in time, and you've got your pool set on a timer and it comes back on with the filter taken apart, it's going to start sucking air, and that's really bad for your pool equipment. So we got the power off. Next thing we're going to do is take our wrench and start loosening this bolt. So just put those pieces somewhere that you're not going to lose them. Keep them in the order that you took them off in, just so you put it back together in the correct fashion. Now, this is a really important little step here that's going to make things a lot easier. This on the top of your pool filter turns. You want to turn it counterclockwise, like you're opening, just like you turned your bolt on your filter there. Turn it counterclockwise. And what's happening right now is this allowed air into this top piece of the filter, so the water is draining out of the filter right now, and that's going to allow the filter top to come off more easily. But while that's draining, I'm going to go ahead and take off this retainer bracket, and yours may just pop off, but mine doesn't come off that easy, so I have to kind of pry it off a little bit. So be very careful, but you can stick this in behind the bracket right here and then just pop it off. Take that whole thing and set it aside. Now the water has drained down in the filter below where the seal is here, so I can just lift this off. If you didn't drain that water out of there, this is not going to come off because there's a suction seal. And then we're just going to take all the filters out, which you can see they're filthy. They got all kinds of stuff, leaves in here, they got all kinds of stuff jammed in between, sand and dirt. They're disgusting. And this has only been a month since I cleaned these. So we're just going to take them all out. This piece here, you can take it out, which is going to make vacuuming down in there easier, but you can also leave it in. If you do take it out, when you put it back in, you need to make sure you really get it all the way seated back down in there. Otherwise it'll keep the lid of the pump, or the lid of the filter, a little bit loose, and you won't get a good seal back on when you put everything together. But I like to take it out to make it easier to vacuum in there. You can do this later before you put it back together, but I'm going to do it now. There's this gasket that goes around there, and this creates the seal, the airtight seal for the lid connecting with the base. And so it's important to keep this in good shape. This little thing is very expensive. Well, it's not a little thing, it's a big thing, and it's very expensive. You don't want this to rot and have to replace it. My last one lasted me as long as my filter did, which was 15 years when the filter finally kind of rotted and broke. And so if you take good care of this, it'll last a long time. So here's how you take good care of it. So first of all, before you forget, take a piece of your rag, maybe the inside of your rag, so you don't use the same part on on your gasket, but just wipe around the edge real quick so that you get the grime and stuff off of there. Then that way when you put it back together, all that grime won't be grinding back into your rubber on this. So wipe that off good, and then use a different part of your cloth for what we're about to do. So we're just going to wipe this down. Again, getting just grime off of there. Now we take our pool and spa lube that I showed you earlier. And just take a clump of it in your hand, pretty good sized clump. It's probably enough, about the size of a, I don't know, a quarter, piled up and then piled up. And we're just gonna work this in to the rubber. And I will tell you, this gets very, very messy on your hands. And so another reason that you have that rag, and you might even want to have a bigger rag available, is because you're gonna want to wipe your hands off when you're done. And so as I'm working this lube around here, I'm also kind of squeezing the gasket, trying to squeeze that lube in to the rubber in any little ways that I can, in any little pores. All right, so it's worked all the way around there. My hands are all goopy, so I'm gonna wipe them off a little bit. Now try to find a kind of a fresh spot on your rag where you didn't wipe off the other grime, and just wipe all the excess goop. Wipe all the excess goop off of the gasket. So now it's going to be slick because it's lubed, but there's no clumps of lube on there. And then just put it back around. If you're going to do this now, be careful that you don't drop it into the water down in there. Like I said, you can wait until later when you're putting things back together to put it back around there. And when you're putting things back together, there'll be no water down in there for you to accidentally drop it in. I want to just really show you how gross this water is down in here. How there's all this junk down in the base. So I said earlier that you didn't have to vacuum this out if you don't have a wet vac. And you don't. You can leave that in there. It won't get into your pool. That's what the filter's for. But I don't want to clean my filters and then put them back in that filth. So I'm going to vacuum this out. So I'm going to show you how to do that with the wet vac. So you want to put your wet vac hose all the way down to the bottom. Now there's a couple different ways that you can do this. One, you can suck some water out, dump out your wet vac, suck some more water out, dump out your wet vac, suck some more water out, dump out your wet vac. For that amount of water, you're gonna have to empty your wet vac probably 4 times unless you got a big one. So I got a little trick to show you. I won't be able to talk about it while the vacuum is on, so I'm gonna tell you about it before I turn the vacuum on and it gets loud. So you want to put the hose all the way down in the bottom, all the way down, and we're going to hold it down there once I turn this on. I'm going to turn it on and get the suction going. And as soon as I think the water has hit the vacuum, I'm going to pull this hose off here, and the gravity is just going to continue to empty all the water out of the basket there, or out of the bottom there. Neat little trick of physics. So the gravity is just emptying the water out of the filter. And I'm making sure to keep the hose down in the bottom so I get as much of the junk out of here as I can and as much of the water out of here as I can. Empty the rest of that water out. You might want to, at this point, open up your wet vac because you're going to have some water in there that was from the initial pumping out. empty that, put it back together. And then, by the way, that other trick will not work with the vacuum attachments on. So I just have the head on there when I'm doing the gravity trick. But now I'm going to put the attachment on here and suck out the rest of the junk and water that's in the bottom. So like I said, you can do this at a do-it-yourself car wash with their pressure washer if you want to. One thing you won't be able to do in that case is you won't be able to use soap. Well, you can, but it's going to cost you a lot more money because you're going to have to go back and forth on the controller there at the car wash between soap and water wash and soap and water wash. Here I can go back and forth between those pretty quickly with just changing out the heads. So when you clean your pool filters, you're cleaning out sand and dirt and little leaf particles, but you're also cleaning out oils, body oils and skin and things like that. And so at least once a year, I like to use soap on the filters to break down those oils and wash them out. And one time a year, I like to use muriatic acid on the filters. I'm not doing that this time, so I can't show you the to-do, but when I wash them that way in the future, I'll try to remember to do a video on how to use the muriatic acid and water. So what we're going to do is we're going to soap them, rinse them, and I'm going to show you the specific way that I rinse them. It's not necessarily the right way, but I do think it's a good way. I use the green tip, which typically these are color coded for the amount of pressure that they put onto whatever you're spraying. And so there's a little black tip that, or sometimes this is blue, and this is going to be the soap sprayer. It'll take soap out of the container down there, and then the green spray head, which is the pressure that I want to spray these. Now there typically are a few other pressure settings. There's white, which is a fairly low pressure but still pressure, and there's a yellow pressure, which is above the green. You do not want to use this head for cleaning your filters because you could literally puncture a hole in your filters using this pressure and this focused of a spray head. So we will not use that one. So we got our green, we got our black. So we got to put our soap in the pressure washer here. I've got a pressure washer that does the soap for you. Now, the specific way before I start up the pressure washer that I do this is I spray each one from several different angles. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get a large amount of this debris out of there and down and out of there before I start spraying water straight at them, because when you spray water straight at them at pressure, it might drive some of the little particles into the filter and stick them there, and we don't want that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to imagine this is the fan blade of my water. I'm going to angle it down like this and wash down so that I'm pushing those little particles down and out of the filter. And so I'm going to do that on every one. I do 3 angles on every side. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 on all 3 filters. After I do that initial rinsing, then I'm going to put soap in. So I'm going to change the head on the sprayer, and I'm going to put soap in the same way. I'm going to go with the soap down down, 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 3 angles on every one with the soap to get it in there. I'm going to give it just a couple seconds to start breaking down the oils, and then I'm going to clean them out. So I'm going to put my water head back on. I'm going to do the three angles on each side again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn. So before I had my water fan going this way, now I'm going to turn my water fan this way, and I'm going to shake the pressure washer head side to side like this as I go down on each of the angles. I'm shaking it like this. And the reason that I do that is because then the water opens up those little leaves of the paper filters there. The paper filters kind of open up like this quickly as the water is spraying past them. Those little paper filters open up like this, and it kind of lets in there so you can get more of the debris out. So, and then I'm going to rinse them again, turning my fan blade again this way, down, 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 3 angles on each side, all 4 filters, and then I turn them all. So that's only one side, and then I grab at a 90 on the side, and I turn it 90 degrees. So because I'm turning it 90 degrees, I'm going to end up cleaning 4 sides. there's a few things that I didn't mention at the beginning that I want to tell you about now, because now you've gotten to see why they're important. You probably saw while I was spraying that this one started to fall, and so that's why I've got it up against a hard surface in the background. Pick a hard surface that you can put these against that they won't get blown over by the pressure washer, but pick a surface behind it that you're not going to damage with the pressure washer. You know, stucco could probably handle it, but I don't know that I want to be spraying junk all over my house, so I just chose the fence, and then I'll pressure wash the fence off when I'm done. The other thing I want to show you is how filthy I've gotten, and I've only cleaned one side. I've got grime all over. Well, I've got stuff from the filters, lead particles, and all that stuff all over my arms. Probably some on my face. My face is wet. My hat is wet. My shirt is dirty. My feet are filthy. So you want to dress appropriately for this. I'm wearing a shirt that I don't care about, and shorts I don't care about, and sandals so that I can easily wash them off when I'm done. So now, since we've done one side, we're going to turn them. So I like to put my thumb on the outside so that I know exactly how much I'm turning it, and then turn my thumb straight toward me, and that way I know I've turned it 90 degrees. And so now I've got a new side, and I'm going to clean 1, 2, 3 more sides the same way that I did as the first. All right, so our filters are all clean. It's time to put everything back together. I'm doing it at night because I'm in Arizona and it was 113 today. So we're doing it at night because it's a little bit cooler. Hopefully you can see everything really well. So first, you might remember I took this out, so I'm putting that back in. And I'm pressing it to make sure that I really get it down in there. I don't want that popped up at all because, like I said before, it'll hold the lid up, and we don't want that. So then we just seat each of our filters back in there around its spot. This part's pretty obvious. There's little things in the base there that they just fit into. And we put this back on, which is the top retainer. Make sure that gets seated back in there nicely also, because that will pop the lid as well. So now we press everything back in there. Don't press too hard because you don't want to break any of the plastic, but just shake it around a little bit, make sure everything is solid in there. Put the lid back on. You want to face the spout in a direction that is acceptable for water to spray, because water is going to spray out of here as we fill it back up. So you want to make sure to face that in a direction that, like I said, it's okay for things to get wet wherever it's facing. Make sure that snugs back on there. Then we're going to put our ring back on. Get the ring back around. There's a lip under here that's, let's call it the male end, that matches the lip inside of here. Call it the female end. Just put those two parts together all the way around. Slot the bolt back through, and then we're going to grab our parts that we kept in good order before and put them back on in the same order: washer, spring, washer, and nut, and just screw that back on. All right, so we screw this back in hand tighten it a little ways. Maybe I like to count in 30s to 50 partial turns. And then after I get that tightened a little bit, I'm gonna take my rubber mallet that we talked about earlier, and I'm just gonna tap around this ring in a couple places. And the purpose for that is to try to seat the ring on there, and it's gonna bring more slack back here for me to take up with screwing the nut in. So I've kind of gotten to the place where so 30 partial turns, and then I just tap around again. And I keep doing that every 30 to 50 turns of my wrench. So you want to stop screwing that nut in when you get just a little bit of separation between your wrench and the washer here. There's just a smidge of separation right there. I don't want to go much further than that because a couple reasons. One, I don't want to be able to get my wrench on there next time, and this thing is only so long. And then number two, you just don't want this to get overly tight. You want it to clamp everything down, but you don't want it to be so tight that next time you've got to pry it off with the jaws of life. My filter's all back together. I still have this top thing open, and I'm gonna leave it open. Leave that open. I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna turn on my pool now. I'm ready to turn on my pool. So turn on the main power switch. It gives power to the panel. And now I'm turning on the actual pool. And the water is not flowing through yet. It's gonna take a second to prime because we drained all the water out of the filter. So what's happening right now is the water is starting to fill back up in the filter, and the water is moving up toward the top, and it's going to start to spray out of here as soon as that filter is full. And as soon as it does, I'm going to shut it off. So make sure that you turn this all the way clockwise, tight, because if you leave it a little bit open, it'll just keep dripping out of there. So even one drop at a time, you don't want to waste the water, so make sure that that's snug. I wish I would have showed you this before, but my pressure now in my filter is at 15. Before I cleaned it, it was at 22. So I've reduced the pressure by 7 pounds per square inch by getting all that junk out of there. All right, so we have nice clean filters. Took me 50 minutes from start to finish. That was just the process of taking the filter apart, cleaning it, putting it back together. Add maybe another 10 minutes for gathering my stuff at the beginning and cleaning up at the end. So an hour, less than an hour to do the whole process. Of course, I've done this many times, so I've gotten good at it. It might take you longer than that the first time. A couple of reminders. I like to do this once a month in the months that I'm using the pool heavily, because it just gets really dirty. There's debris falling in the pool in the summer. There's lots of bodies in there getting oil in the pool, and so I like to do this every month in the summer. In the months when we're not using the pool, I like to do it every 3 months, because they still do get a little bit dirty, but they don't get as dirty as when the pool's being used. So I do it every 3-4 months in the winter. I like to wash the filters at least once a year with the soap. Of course, if you're using the pressure washer, you can easily do the soap every time you do this because it's so quick. You could use the soap every time. But I like to do it at least once a year with the soap. I like to do the soap at the end of the summer so that I'm washing all the body oils out of the filters that have gathered in there throughout the summer. I like to wash them at least once a year in an acid bath, which I did not show you in this video. Hopefully I'll show you that in the future when I do it. But you soak the filters in an acid and water mixture before cleaning them, and then you do all the same process that we just did. I like to do that in the spring, right before we're gonna start our swimming season. So I hope this was really helpful. I know you can do it at home, and if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. If you're not already subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button so that you can make sure to get notified in the future when there's more of these great, helpful, do-it-yourself videos.